almost every circumstance, right? So this is going to be great. You still want to train this? I'd say this is a great place to start when you teach somebody. It's easier for them to cue that the stick is on their back. They'll feel the core musculature begin to activate. If you do it with proper cueing, they should feel it deeper inside the abdominal wall. Once you have that mastered, right, and we're going to try and play around with this because I'm walking around, everybody's looking like they're getting much better with their posture. They're able to hold their stuff together much better now. So I'm going to progress it just a little bit further. I'm not going to say we're going to do it on the feet quite yet because we're still somewhat going to be training the same range of motion. Instead, what I'm going to tell you guys to do in this circumstance, we're going to stay properly balanced on the knees and the shoulders and the elbows. For some of you, I was looking at you guys were kind of putting a lot of pressure on the upper body on this plank. I don't want this to be an upper body exercise. I want it to be the total body exercise, even weight distribution. So be watchful of that. Don't put too much pressure on your shoulders. Once we're starting from that plank, I'm going to then start to pull my navel in. Keep my scapula back. Can you put that stick on the swell, my guy? So you're going to keep this position, and then slowly you're going to extend your knees out back and begin to drop your pelvis. And keep the navel in. Keep the ribs opened up. You're going to start dropping the pelvis little by little to where at this point I'm going to try and create a straight line with my femurs and my torso. Is that a fairly straight line there, guys? Yes or no? Careful not to extend your lumbar here. We want to maintain the neutral spine, opening up the ribs even as we're at the bottom here. And you should feel your abs work significantly from there, especially specifically at the lower ends. So let's say, how does this apply? If I was going to start running, at the point where I would start utilizing hip extension, if I was to lose lower abdominal function here, what would end up happening? Hyperextension, right? So we're situationally going to activate the core musculature. So when we start finishing out extension, what's this still doing? Activating to maintain the position so my lumbar doesn't go into hyperextension as I come forward. If we can hold this together, what are the glutes likely going to communicate? More extension, less hyperextension. You guys see what I mean? So now we're situationally changing the position of the femur in relation to the hip, and we're increasing the angle. As we increase the angle, that may actually elongate some of the fibers. But remember, we're not so focused on flexing or extending the spine. What are we focused on doing more of? Compressing the spine, right? There's a difference. We don't want to flex it. We don't want to extend it. We want to compress the abdomen via the usage of the transverse abdominis. And that's what you guys have all pretty much been feeling up until this point. Now we want to start doing it in another context, right? When you're in a standing neutral position, in what context are you activating your core? In extension, right? At the end point of extension. Now we're going to try and overemphasize that with this modification of the plank. Does that make sense? Okay, let's practice that a little bit. I'll be walking around and I'll be looking at your mechanics. Be sure to watch for those cues that the person's not going to hyperextend their lumbar spine. Doesn't mean they go into a crazy posterior tilt either. They need to remain neutral, just like if they were at that higher angle. Okay, we'll go for about 10 minutes on that, and then we're going to take a break for 5 minutes. Posterior tilt? Yeah, nice. Keep the hips up a little higher still, man. A little bit more, keep them up. Posterior pelvic tilt. There you go. Posterior pelvic tilt. Engage your glutes there, brother. Engage glutes. Posterior tilt. Keep on. I'm going to flatten this out right here. Flatten this out. Come on. Keep that there. Do not let that go. Slowly start dropping the hips down to the floor. Keep your posterior tilt. Keep tucking. There you go. Keep dropping it lower. 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 Pull your scapula back. Do not let your lower back curve even further. Hold that position. Relax your upper traps. Depress your shoulders. Posterior pelvic tilt from there. Hold that. You feel the core burning. Take a break. So in that circumstance, when you need to utilize extension, what is your body defaulting to? What's that communicating? You're going into hyperextension. So when you want to throw your knees and you're going here, you're probably going to go with lumbar extension. It's going to make the movement require more flexion to throw the thing forward, rather than if you're here and you throw the knee, you rotate, bang, and that's when the knee comes out a little bit more crisp. You see what I mean? So when you're getting at that bottom of that plank, you guys gotta be very aware that the person doesn't go into that lower doses. They're gonna want to do that.
That's the hardest thing to keep, that posterior.
But remember, it's not flexing the spine either, right? We're not flexing at the lumbar. We're just retracting so the spine almost straightens out a little bit more at that end. And we're also going to keep the diaphragm open. Why? Because the diaphragm is also going to decompress the lumbar spine. Because if we just start tucking under and we try compressing, and we still got pressure going down, what's likely going to happen? You go pressure down here. So we got to mix them both together. That's why retracting the scapula, opening up the ribs is so important, and then retracting the ankle. So we don't flex it. You retract it. You know what I mean? That would be compress the abdomen. It's a different function altogether. Next person. Back in 2 seconds. Retroversión. Retroversión, un poquito más. Tuck your hips under, posterior tilt. Start dropping your hips. Depress the scapula just a little bit. Depress, depress. Beautiful. Give me a posterior pelvic tilt. Posterior pelvic tilt. Come on. Start dropping the pelvis down to the floor. Lower. I want you to drop it. Drop to the left side of your pelvis down to the floor. The left side. Keep going. Keep going. Keep noticing a rotational deficiency here. Drop the hips down lower. 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 Beautiful. I need you to bear down on your abductors and rotate your knees inward. From there. Rotate the knees inward. Beautiful. We're going to rotate the hips a little bit this way. Hold that navel in. Open your ribs up. You feel that core burning? You feel the lower abdominal fiber burning? Okay. Open your ribs. Open your ribs. There you go. Take a break. Crazy, right? But every time that you run, that's where you lose the connection. Every time that you sprint, anytime that you jump, what does your body do? If there's no strength holding you together here, what does your spine do? It comes back. So when I jump up, what does my body need to do? Maintain that so that way my glutes can finish out extension and I don't default into extension. So it's situational. If you practice that enough, I guarantee your mechanics will change. But yeah, just the application is going to be rough. Honestly, this is too much of a progression too soon, but it's like, just so you guys have the awareness of it. You get what I mean? Because eventually you'll do the plank, it's not going to feel like nothing, but you're going to get bored of it, and you're going to want to progress sooner. This is going to kind of be that next progression to it all. Okay? Keep going. You got too much pressure on your upper body right now. Get it more on, there you go. So equal weight distribution from the elbows to the knees. Nice. Stack them to your back. Looking really good. I need that pressure on the knees. A little lower, come on. There you go, a little lower. Squeeze the glutes there. Get your weight on your knees. Take a break, take a break. So, we maintain this, so we increase the angle of the femur. Lose this, or do you increase the angle of the lumbar spine? Or you shorten the angle on the lumbar spine to go into hyperextension. If we don't maintain this, we go hyperextension of the lumbar. If we maintain this, the glutes the only thing left over that can compensate in that fashion. Make sense? It's really important. But good cueing. Like anything as well. When you're looking at anything crazy, just watch out to make sure you don't get too much pressure on the shoulders. If you feel like you're doing that, sometimes you just have to move your knees back a little bit to open up spaces. See what I mean? So at that point, the weight doesn't come forward as it brings the hips down. The weight will still go back. So sometimes you let the knees go backwards. Let them move posterior.